All right, boys and girls, today we are going to read one Sunday. So have a listen, follow along, take notes as you go. I'm not going to put the pages down so you can take the notes from there. Just listen to the notes as I read them, highlight the best that you can. We'll share the book and the pages tomorrow to talk specifically about the different kind of notes that you need to take, but do the best you can at home like you've been doing in class. Here we go. One Sunday. And I apologize about the fan. Normally I have mic up, but today I'm not. One Sunday. One Sunday, a storm blew in with green gold waves touching the sky and coconut trees flinging about, dancing with ghost clouds, whispering lies. All right. One Sunday, a storm symbol. Storm. If you read about a storm, usually that means something bad's about to happen. With green gold waves touching the sky, personification, highlight touching the sky. And coconut trees flinging about, dancing with ghost clouds, personification. Whispering lies, personification. So lots of personification, all imagery, beautiful figurative language. And the rain, sharp and white, painting words on the sand, personification. That change my life. No stars, no moon, no songs or stories to find me and hide me, personification. No brothers or sister or mommy or poppy to hold me and calm me. The rain words fall in tunnels, leaving dark holes of truth of who I am. Who am I? Remind me, please, before this Sunday storm decides. Again, storm is a symbol of bad things to come. Lots of personification there. Obviously, in that last section, the stars, moon, songs, or stories to find me. They can't. That's what a person does. But again, it's using beautiful language to describe that. And rain words fall in tunnels, leaving dark holes of truth. You can't leave truth because they're not persons. So that's personification. And all of this is foreshadowing something bad is about to happen. All right, here we go. Sunday was the day I loved best and the day I feared most. Those are opposites, which means it's irony. She loves Sundays and is afraid of Sundays at the same time. From the time I was 5 years old, I knew that on Sundays we were going to the beach. I also knew that on Sundays, Poppy was going to get drunk, very drunk, no matter what. Call it an end of the week celebration. Perhaps that is how Poppy and his friends saw it. But Sunday was reserved for nothing but drinking, and they started at 9 o'clock in the morning. All over the porch they sat in their white sleeveless vests with their thick brown arms slung over the backs of chairs. In the middle of the porch was a rickety table full of bottles of liquid gold shining in the sunlight. I sat high in my gree-gree tree after church, waiting for Mommy to take me, Roberto, and Angela to Sasua Beach. We would pack up our white plastic buckets with chicken and gravy and boiled bananas and walk down to the beach. While Mommy sat under the shade of an almond tree, Roberto, Angela, and I swam and jumped in the blue waves. Sometimes we would play catch on the beach if we found a stray ball that tourists had left behind. By the afternoon, our friends from school would be on the beach with their families, and I would play with them, having speed races on the sand and seeing who could jump the highest to touch the branches of the almond trees. So all of this is wonderful imagery describing this beautiful scene at the beach. Sunday was definitely the best day. Mommy smiled a lot, and Angela took time to teach me things out in the bright sunlight, like how to braid my wet sandy hair. But as wonderful as Sundays could be, I lived in terror, irony, because on some Sundays, on too many of them, as a matter of fact, Poppy would decide to stroll down the beach to meet us. By the time Poppy arrived on Sasua Beach, he could hardly walk. He would stumble along, tripping over my friends' towels and baskets. He'd lurch toward me and hug me tightly, saying, "Do you love your Poppy? How much do you love your Poppy?" I was always surprised that the sun didn't slip behind a cloud or something to warn me of what was coming. Personification. It shone on bright as ever as I clutched Poppy to keep him and myself from falling into the sand. Finally, Roberto would appear to lead Poppy over to the almond tree and help him sit next to Mommy. She never once uttered a word, not to him, not to us. She would gaze at the sea with a look on her face that made me think she wasn't even there with us. From his place next to Mommy, Poppy would shout at us, demanding that we bring cups of rum and Coke from friends' coolers. Fortified with that, he would shake Mommy by the shoulders, asking, "¿Qué pasa, mi amor?" Okay, so fortified means with strength, and "¿Qué pasa, mi amor," remember, means "what's up, my love?" Through the years, Sundays began to get worse as Poppy demanded louder and meaner, "¿Qué pasa, mi amor?" and Mommy never answered. As if to show her up, Poppy would pull me close and he would ask again and again, "I'm your Poppy, right, cariño? I'm your Poppy." "Claro que sí," I would answer. "Of course." "Of course, yes." And I tried to squirm away from his mutilating breath. Highlight mutilating vocabulary word, means horrible. But that wasn't good enough, and Poppy would ask me again and again. I answered quickly each time, hoping he wouldn't get loud or do as he once did, walking up and down the beach, dragging me along, saying, "This is my daughter, my daughter." A few months after I turned 12, and I had finally learned to dance and braid my hair perfectly and write stories, I was proud to read out loud. I found out something that would forever change my Sundays. I was walking home from school one day when I saw a man dressed all in white sitting on top of a mule with a saddle, a real leather saddle. This was a big jefe, remember that means boss. That was clear. The man looked me up and down. "You are Ana Rosa, see?" "Yes." He asked me. I nodded my head. Before I could ask him who he was, he leaned down and handed me a 5-peso bill. I examined the red paper in amazement. So much money. I looked at him and he said, "Buy something nice, anything you want, and take your mommy her favorite yellow and black cake." I was so surprised that all I could say was, "Gracias, señor." Thank you, sir. I didn't even know Mommy had a favorite cake. I watched as the man's sturdy mule carried him down the lane. Then I ran to Senor Garcia's colmado and asked for my beloved dulces, candy, a handful of chiclets, gum, and Mommy's yellow and black cake. I raced home to show Mommy the treats. Her eyes opened wide when she saw the dulces I pulled out of the bag. When I laid the cake on the table and said, "Your favorite," she grabbed my shoulders roughly. "Where did you get all this?" Her voice burned like fire in my ears. Highlight, simile, and also hyperbole. My knees began to tremble. Before I could explain about the man on the mule, Mommy dragged me across the room and out the door. "We are going down to the colmado right now to find out how you paid for this," she said. "Ana Rosa, I swear if I find out you took money from anyone..." "I didn't steal it, Mommy," I cried, walking as fast as I could next to her. As we walked, I told her about the man on the mule, but the more I talked, the more her face set into a mask of anger, a metaphor. I was scared to look at my mommy because she didn't look like herself anymore. There was no sweet smiles and gentle words. My mommy had walked straight out of herself and left behind a stranger. Hyperbole. She was a star, simile, that had exploded on earth and was tearing up everything in her path. What mood do we have? Like, mommy is what? And what does that make us? When we reached the colmado, Mommy spoke so swiftly to Senor Garcia that I could hardly understand a word. For 5 minutes, the words fell around me in places I could reach. Hyperbole. I gave up trying to gather them into anything sensible. After a while, Mommy took my hand and we walked home. I knew from nothing I had been told, but from everything I could feel, that our lives had changed. Put a star there. Before we reached the house, I heard Poppy's whistling. It was payday for Guario, and we had been getting ready for another little fiesta. Poppy was fixing up the porch with chairs. When he heard us walk up, he turned around, but as soon as he saw Mommy's face, he stopped. He stood as still as the leaves before a rainstorm. Simile comparing Poppy to leaves sitting still. Then, in a split second, I saw my swift dancing Poppy turn into a clumsy old man. Hyperbole. His hand reached blindly behind him for a chair. With a heavy sigh, Poppy sat down and looked at us with eyes that were 2 dark holes. Suddenly I felt very frightened. Que pasa, Mommy? Poppy, what's the matter, Mommy, Poppy? I asked softly. I listened as Mommy spoke very slowly this time and very clearly, telling Poppy about the man on the mule, about how this man was my father, and how he had given me money and ridden off. But I already have a father, I said, when Mommy was finished. Right, Poppy? Poppy bent his head and stared into his rum bottle. Mommy wiped her hands on her dress and sat down on the porch. I had never seen Mommy sit on the porch during the day, never in my life. That's how I knew she was serious, and that the man I was calling Poppy was not my Poppy. I looked at him, my dancing, smiling, ever-drinking Poppy, the man who taught me to dance and who without fail embarrassed me on Sundays, the man who insisted I was his daughter. What was Mommy saying? How could the man in white sitting on top of that mule with the fancy leather saddle be my father? Mommy kept speaking in the background of my confusion. I heard her words telling me about one Sunday, long ago, there's the title, when Poppy went off for days drinking away all the pesos for food, and she had nothing to feed Guario, Roberto, and Angela. So Poppy left, and Mommy fell in love with somebody else, and then Poppy came back. And when Poppy came back, she decided to try with Poppy one more time. So Ana Rosa is not Poppy's daughter. Ana Rosa is El Jefe's daughter. What was Mommy saying? That the man on the mule gave her money, he bought her food, and then he became my father? I knew with all my heart that this did not make any sense, but in my gut, at the very bottom of my confusion, was the fear that Mommy was telling the truth. I got up and ran, leaving Mommy and my not Poppy on the porch. I went down to the beach, the only place in the world for me, hyperbole. I walked past my friends playing at the edge, kicking up water and hunching in the trees like tree frogs. Simile, comparing her friends to tree frogs. I passed them silently. Where are you going, Ana Rosa? They called out. I walked down the beach searching for quiet, but the sound of the wind and the waves made that impossible. There was no quiet. It was as loud as if 1,000 windows were open and you could hear the voices of all your neighbors. Highlight that. What is that? Questions swirled around in my head, making me dizzy. If Poppy was not my father, then did I still have a family? And what about Guario? Was he my brother? I felt a sharp pain in my side, and I held my waist, bending over with that incredible feeling of loss that Guario might not be my brother. Of course, they're all related, of course. But he is, I shouted to the sky. I closed my eyes against the stinging sun and sat down on the sand. When the sun had filled up all of the spaces of my skin with its heat, hyperbole, I stood up and walked into the water, my arms outstretched at the sides. It was so clear that I could see my shadow in the water. I was a dark cross below the surface, metaphor comparing Ana Rosa to a dark cross. The beautiful clear water opened up for me and I slipped below, letting the coolness fill me up. I would never be the same Ana Rosa Hernandez again. That's all imagery. Beautiful using the senses. When I finally came up for air, I turned on my back and floated, staring at the faraway sky and listening to the sea music in my ears. I wished I could stay there forever, surrounded above and below by the blueness of heaven and water, a place where words did not exist, nothing but a circle of darkness spreading inside me. For some time I floated, gazing at the sky. Then from far off I heard whispery words. It was a rhyme that I used to sing to my mother. Del cielo cae una rosa, pero no se desajo. Mi madre me quiere mucho, pero más la quiero yo. As rose fell from the sky, but it was not destroyed. My mother loves me a lot, but I love her more. I closed my eyes to all the blueness around me and thought about my mother, my mommy, my wash day friend, my stand up straight and never look down force, my you will write stories, cariño, believer. From somewhere inside myself, I knew that mommy needed me and that she had a whole bunch of words and questions fighting her like I did, personification. And if we didn't stick together, then one dark night, those very same questions would eat us up and spit out our bones across the sand, personification. But I was a writer, wasn't I? I loved words. To me, Poppy was still my Poppy, and words didn't have to be the enemy destroying my family. I had power over them. I could make words into anything I wanted, not lies, not tales of sorrow, but the opposite. I could rewrite everything to make my not Poppy Sunday eyes disappear and maybe bring my mommy's faraway Sunday face back to us, to him. One girl's words, I thought, can they be that powerful? Can they? It was time to find out. I would write a poem, I decided, and I would give it to Mommy and Poppy, and they would know then how words are everything and nothing all at the same time. Irony. Opposites again. Words are everything and nothing at the same time. Because the man on the porch drinking his rum is my Poppy, whether I like him or not. He is my Poppy, and the man on the mule is a story. Metaphor, comparing the man to a story. And you can see, like, she grew up with Poppy being her Poppy, and Poppy is her Poppy, and she's going to write a poem, and we've already read that poem, haven't we, to make it better. But we can see here that Ana Rosa grew up when she kind of laid in that water and she said, I am different now. And now she's going to use words to show her power and her strength. Okay? So one Sunday, our next chapter, The Colors of Power. All right. Can't wait. See you guys soon. Enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed that chapter. It was a very serious chapter. Awesome job. Make sure you have the notes as we took them, and we'll take more notes together when we see each other on, hopefully tomorrow. Peace. See you guys.